Hey, Grampian Nation. I was out on a walk with my wife last night, and we had previously been talking about Randy Moss, the wide receiver for the Minnesota Vikings. And they called him the freak in such a good way. Anyway, the conversation rolled, and Sarah said, Hey, who are you going to have on the podcast tomorrow? And I said, Oh, dude, I'm having this guy by the name of Anthony. And when it comes to business, he's the freak. And I met that in a great way. So, ladies and gentlemen, get ready. We're going to talk to Anthony the Freak.
In 2013, I coined the name Grampian, and I gave it to your host, Jim Tracy.
Hey, buddy. Anthony Franco, welcome to the show.
That is, you have set the expectations way too high for me. So I apologize to everybody listening right now.
Well, let me tell you, I'm going to, just by way of introduction to everybody has to get a little bit more information. You are, by any measure, a serial entrepreneur. You founded and exited, which is a good exits, out of 6 separate business. You're an author. You're working you're working AI, and I can barely spell it. You wrote a book called The Wiser Method, and yeah. Who are you, man? You also run a podcast. I mean, I was first introduced to you by your fabulous podcast called How to Founder, and you're in Denver, so you moved. You fled California, so everything about you screams winner.
Yeah. Talk to my wife for 10 minutes. She'll convince you absolutely otherwise.
Okay.
Yeah. So I basically, you're saying I can't figure out what I want to do, so I keep dipping my toes into a whole bunch of things, and am completely unemployable. So I decided to be an entrepreneur. So I love entrepreneurship. Actually, I should say that differently. I love entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship sucks, to be really candid. It's really hard. It's very lonely. The likelihoods of you winning are very low. And if you do win, the likelihood of you winning again is even lower. And so, How to Founder, the podcast, I started that just because, one, I have this affinity for entrepreneurs, and so I have I co-host it with Chris Franks and Stephanie Hayes, and we talk about the tactics of being a founder. We don't talk about founder stories or have guests on with to look at their backgrounds like you are. There's room for that. That's just not the premise of it. Instead, we want to talk about what does it look like to be a founder and how do you do it correctly?
How to, right?
How to, exactly.
Tips and tricks and life hacks for how to start a business and sometimes build your life and sometimes ruin your life.
Exactly. And more importantly, what not to do. So we pick one topic and just dive deep every episode.
All right. Cool. And how many podcasts are you into that now? How long have you been doing that?
So we've been doing it for a little over a year, and we have 116 episodes in. So we're currently on a track of doing 3 episodes a week, and we go live. So we broadcast live. So it's really raw. There's no post-production. We don't smooth it out. It is what it is, warts and all.
Okay. So speaking of post-production, it almost feels like I'm name dropping, but you were involved in the post-production of some little films like The Thin Red Line and The Matrix. I mean,
yeah, it feels like another life. Yes.
A long time ago, but tell us a little bit about post-production work in the movie business.
It is the least glamorous job you can possibly have. Like I used to, you tell people that you work in the movies and they get all, oh, that must be really exciting. It really is not. It's very mechanical. Very like the true creative decisions are generally made way above your pay grade. So I worked on the Warner Brothers lot in feature post-production sound, and I was a coordinator. So I coordinated. I was an assistant. I can't remember my exact title, but I was an assistant coordinator. where I just helped make sure that the sound effects were right in movies and ran things back
Uh-huh.
and forth to the stage.
Yeah.
And occasionally I got to do a little bit of sound editing and playing with stuff. But most of the time I was just a glorified project manager.
All right. Sounds good. Okay, but then I mean, you keep rolling some of these cool things up, and not many people know Kevin O'Leary, but everybody knows Mr. Wonderful. You had an experience with Kevin, and kind of lay that out for us. What did that?
Yeah. So
What was
I,
it, and then how did it feel?
I was lucky enough to be chosen to film on Shark Tank,
Yeah.
and um, it, even now, a year, 5 years later, from the filming, it's indescribable. It's quite um, uh, difficult to explain the intense joy of being on that stage combined with the intense fear and anxiety that it produces. I had a blast. And the Sharks were great to me. Kevin, I'm not supposed to say this because I don't want to ruin his reputation, but he's actually a really good guy.
He is really a
And
wonderful guy, isn't he?
he
Yeah.
he really is. He loves his entrepreneurs. He does. Is he operational? Does he save businesses? No. But he really isn't a strong. He does the things that you want him to do, which is advocate for your business as
Hmm.
though it's his.
Yeah.
And so, getting the deal with him was great. Working with him was even better.
Yeah. And unlike some of the Shark Tank stories that we hear about, you finished well here.
Yeah. What do you mean? What do you mean finished well?
Well, so that you exited that business.
Actually, that's not on the six. I have not exited that business. That
Okay.
business struck that. So we were doing really well, and then hit an Amazon glitch. So full transparency, we were doing really well, growing. But the business relied completely on Amazon, and we were
Okay.
starting to talk to retailers, talking to Walmart and Target and all the big names, and Amazon had a database glitch on our listings, and it tanked the business.
Oh
Like
my.
overnight tanked the business. And something so built a factory around the business. It was doing well. We were crushing it, and then just couldn't survive sales going to nothing,
Hmm.
literally nothing, overnight. And it
Yeah.
took us 6 months to figure it out. By that time, it was too late to salvage it. So that
Okay.
was. So I have 6 successes and one of those failures.
Okay. So, but there's a lesson right there for your founders and your audience on diversification, right?
Yeah,
Customer
absolutely.
concentration.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. I mean, first of all, in hindsight, I don't know if I would have done it differently. Just because Amazon was helping us grow the business because the revenue was there.
Hmm.
Um, I learned a lot about how to recover from it. So I would just had tried to recover from it quickly. Like
Yeah.
it was just one of those like weird anomalous events that happened.
Yeah.
I have a dartboard here with Jeff Bezos' face on it that I throw darts at all the time. It makes me feel a little bit better. But I don't know if I would have. I don't know if in hindsight, I did it right. It just didn't work out.
Yeah. So, one of the things that you talk about often is the difficulties and the challenges, the real life of an entrepreneur. Fill in some of those blanks for us because it's nobody really wants to like put that out in front of people, but it's real and it's true.
I get asked I get asked quite a bit, should I become an entrepreneur? And my immediate reaction is no. Um, so entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs that actually start businesses, there's higher rates of depression, higher rates of suicide, higher rates of
Mm,
divorce. The likelihood of you succeeding is extremely low. You have fewer resources, less time, less wisdom, less experience than anybody that you're going to compete against. So everything on paper says that you should never start. Now I'm gonna follow that up with most of the people that I tell that to, they're almost like I see them sink and
Mm,
with realization that what I'm saying is truth.
yeah.
And then there's the odd duck that looks at me like I'm bat blank crazy.
Yeah.
Like, what, this guy has no idea what he's talking about. Now that's the entrepreneur.
Yeah.
If I can talk you out of it, then you shouldn't do it.
Yeah. You aren't.
And if I can't, then maybe you got a shot.
Yeah. So I guess then, if I think about that, and I think about my own journey, an entrepreneur is not something you do; it's something that you are. Is that accurate?
Uh, so I'm going to get. So I couldn't argue that. It's definitely a different way of thinking about it. Um, but but entrepreneurs do. So the reason why I struggle with
Hmm.
that is because entrepreneurs actually do stuff.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not an entrepreneur. You're a dreamer. Again,
Right.
nothing wrong with being a dreamer. That's great. Have dreams.
Yeah.
But if you're not executing on those dreams, then you're not an entrepreneur.
Right.
So yes, I think I think it's really hard to teach somebody how to be an entrepreneur. You
Yeah.
are or you aren't.
Hmm.
So I agree with that piece of it. But the deciding thing that makes you an entrepreneur is you're building stuff. You're going out
Yeah.
and taking risks and not just risks with money, but with your reputation. You're risking shame. You're risking embarrassment. So so I think doing is the fundamental trait.
Yeah. Somebody asked me one time. They said, "What was the most difficult part of the entrepreneurial journey?" And I said, "Well, it wasn't betting my house. That came natural. It's like, hey, I've got to do this." And it wasn't like the hardest part about it was not starting. And so what I mean by that is that I went through it a couple of times trying to be an entrepreneur and working within somebody else's company
Mm.
and I couldn't not do it. So when you go out on your own, you've got a truth bomb, and that it's lonely, and that it's difficult. But I found myself unable to not do it. And that was the hardest part, is maybe doing it for somebody else before I did it for myself.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth in that, and it's funny. There is some. Look, I wish I could be normal and have a regular job. There's 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 some security in that, and because the whether or not you're successful is extremely binary as an entrepreneur.
Mm,
Either you are or you aren't, and it's
yeah,
entirely based on your merits.
yeah,
Um, and your ability to grow profitable revenue, right?
yeah,
That's it. That's the job.
yeah.
I find it really interesting that a vast majority of entrepreneurs
Hmm.
will tell people, just like I do, they wouldn't recommend it to their friends or family. They just wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah,
But they also wouldn't choose to do something else for themselves.
yeah,
So it's that dichotomy that is kind of perplexing.
yeah. And it's not necessarily just like a personality trait. It's something that goes way, way deeper than that. So, what made you realize that entrepreneurship was actually your DNA, if you will?
I couldn't hold a regular job. It was the only way I could. It was the only way I could provide for my family.
Okay.
I call it dysfunction. Like I really do think it's a form of dysfunction, that you're kind of forced into this life because um, you can't make it through the world any other way.
Yeah. Well, there's something to that, but at the end of the day, the rewards that you have experienced have far outweighed the challenges, have they not?
Yeah, and sure, there's wins in your bank account, but I think that and not and the opposite of that. Um, but there's all the thing that I find the most critical for me is that I don't have to live under somebody else's value system, which I struggle with deeply. So
Mm.
the autonomy is definitely exceptional, but also really scary.
Yeah.
But mostly I don't have to, if I don't agree with somebody's ethics, as an entrepreneur, you can choose not to work with that person. As an
Yeah.
employee, you're now choosing between, do I feed my family or not?
Yeah.
And that's harder. That's something I couldn't wrap my head around.
Yeah, and that goes to business culture too. One of the
Mm-hmm.
things that I do with we have something it's called the Culture Revival Blueprint, and we go in and we help founders that have grown and scaled return their business to what they always wanted it to be, and those are some of the struggles that when you engage things like private equity that change the face of your
Mm,
business, and
yes.
and most of the people that are truly entrepreneurs are going like, this is maybe not what I wanted. I got
Yeah.
everything I wanted and it's not what I wanted.
It's a very common story after you,
Yeah.
especially once you go down once you take outside money,
Yeah.
either through venture capital, private equity, um, or an exit
Mhm.
to somebody, and you're still with that company, it dramatically changes things.
Yeah.
And I think you're exactly right. That sentiment is not what I expected.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's bad or good. It's just different, and
It's
sometimes different is bad.
yeah. 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 So, the traditional ways of running a business has changed over time. And what
Mm.
we used to do, kind of doesn't work anymore. Why is that? When did you come to that realization?
I think actually that is temporal. I don't think that's necessarily true.
Okay.
Um, so one thing that has changed is the pace of innovation has dramatically
Mm.
increased, and AI is an enabler of that.
Hmm.
Um, but the fundamentals haven't changed. Can you build a product that solves a pain point, and can you sell that product,
Yeah.
um, or service? Right. So
Yeah.
so it doesn't get any more complicated than that. I know a lot of entrepreneurs that try to make it much more complicated.
Hmm.
But what I find that they're doing is trying to make excuses on why they're not going out and trying to sell themselves. Right?
Yeah.
You're the entrepreneur. You got to go sell stuff,
Yeah.
and you have to figure out that quick. Otherwise, you don't have a company. And
Yeah.
that foundation, that fundamental, has never changed. You have to generate revenue. Um, Now, are there companies that don't? Can you point to me an example that a successful entrepreneur has started a company, never made money, and wound up rich? Yeah, but I can also point to you people down the street that bought a lottery ticket.
Yeah. Those are
That
unicorns.
right? Those are that you're buying a lottery ticket. Like, why try to do it the hard way? That is the
Yeah.
hard way. Just
Exactly.
being able to build a product and sell it is a skill that'll last you the rest of your life. Just not just the startup you're in now, but whatever you decide to do later.
Yeah. When we were coming up, I learned from a really cool old school guy. He's like, revenue cures a lot of problems. How true is that?
It hides a lot of problems too, but yes, it absolutely does. It absolutely does. Revenue cures all.
Yeah.
You
Um,
can't you can't cut your way to a growing company.
yeah. And you can't scrimp your way to prosperity.
You cannot. You cannot.
All right. So now you are. So you wrote the AI first principles,
Yes, I'm
and
still working on that. So saying I wrote them, um, is kind of disingenuous. I actually think of me as like an archaeologist or a journalist going and talking to really smart people in the AI space and gathering all the. Let's back up. When you say you're in AI, what does that mean?
ugh,
Um, Does it mean that you're working for ChatGPT, for OpenAI,
Uh-huh.
developing inference models for the latest LLM? Does it mean you're working for NVIDIA, building the latest chips? Does it mean that you're working for Grok? Does it mean that you're in ChatGPT 3 times a day?
Yeah.
And there's a gap. What I noticed. So my friend runs this company called OneReach. My former partner. We started businesses together, and it's an agentic platform.
Hmm.
And um, and what I noticed when talking to him and working with him is that nobody's really talking about how do you take AI and operationalize it? How do you incorporate it into a company in a safe, sane, and productive way?
Yeah.
And so I started gathering all of the information on how OneReach and others are doing it, and came up with this notion of AI first principles. And
Hmm.
it's not done yet. Like actually working through a major revision now. Now the wiser method um, is the practice of putting those principles into practice.
Hmm.
So the principles are, think of it like a manifesto, like why does this matter? And
Okay.
wiser will wind up being um, a the how do you do this
Tab A,
in
slot
an
B,
iterative way?
implementation.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. All right. So, what is um, what's the biggest impact? What mindset kind of dramatic change shift should entrepreneurs and business managers, they see, we get a lot of C-suite folks who listen to this, and what mindset shift should they adopt to incorporate AI as a really beneficial part of their company?
Um, Man, this is so relevant right now to what I'm working on. Um, the first thing I would say is AI is not here to replace jobs. It's here to disrupt crappy work.
Yeah.
It's here to replace the crappy work.
Yeah.
So it's not the mistake. Let me talk about the mistake I've seen quite a bit. Is companies will say they'll treat AI like a bolt-on. Like we need to add AI like you add a CRM.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely the wrong way to think about it. You need to think about AI as a chance to completely disrupt and rebuild your business from the ground up.
Yeah.
Um, that requires, though, um, you can't just hand that over to a team and say, rebuild my business. That's dangerous, right?
You
So,
want to recognize it when they're done.
yeah, exactly right. So it requires the right leadership and team to go through and essentially fundamentally understand how your business works now and make incremental improvements so that you you earn the right to then redesign and rebuild.
Hmm.
So it's right now it's iterative improvements, and AI
Hmm.
can help with that, but not just to make iterative improvements. Those are micro wins, but
Hmm.
it's to gain the wisdom to be able to rebuild using true agentic software like OneReach.
Okay. Can you give our listeners like a practical example where you've seen a shift in a business based upon incorporating AI into it?
Well, so all of the shifts that I can talk about. So I know of a few I'm under NDA I can't talk about, but all of the shifts um, that I'm seeing right now, they're incremental improvements.
Mm.
It's better voice systems when customers call.
Oh, yeah.
It's you know I I've recently I recently personally experienced this where I called to make a dinner reservation, and it was obviously AI, and it was
Uh-huh.
a pleasant experience.
Really?
It didn't suck. It wasn't press one to do this, it was a
Yeah.
conversation I was having with an AI over the phone.
Yeah.
And and so I think I think where businesses are really winning right now is those direct um, it's the businesses that choose to use AI to improve customer experience, not to cut costs.
Yeah.
And if you go into it with that mindset, you're going to do both. You're going to improve the
Yeah.
customer experience and you're going to save money because you're taking people out of the crappy part of having to deal with customers and putting them to work on making decisions on how to leverage AI better.
Yeah. And the voices are understandable. It's crazy.
It's it's
It is crazy how good they
it's
are.
been it's been 3 years. And
Yeah.
this it's unbelievable the advances that are happening in AI tech right now. It's been 3 years and the world is completely different.
Yeah. And I did experience that like you did in a phone conversation with a box.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because your first, at least mine is my first instinct is to go, oh, great, a computer. I've
Yeah.
operator. You feel like you're setting yourself up for that frustration,
Yeah.
and when it's pleasant, it endears you to the brand.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, these guys did this right. This is actually good.
Yeah.
I'd much rather talk to a good AI than a bad human being.
Well, especially if there's latency lag in the phone conversation because customer service happens to be in Bangladesh, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
And this way it's in Chicago in a box and it actually understands you and gracefully says, "I'm sorry, did you mean 8 a.m. or it's evening?"
right,
I mean, you're
right.
like, "Whoa." Logical, it's logical. So what are some of the other things that AI can do for businesses that you're looking, because yeah, I see you as a bit of a futurist and you're seeing stuff that's
I talk to
already
futurists. I'm a realist. I'm a practical.
okay.
I apply. I do not. I'm a terrible forecaster.
Okay.
So I talk to people that forecast, and then sometimes get to sound smart because I just repeating their words. So you're going to ask me about the future. The thing that I'm working with on with I get to talk to the CEO of OneReach quite often. His name is Rob Wilson, and he
Hmm.
wrote a book. He wrote the book Age of Invisible Machines, and that's very future forward thinking about
Hmm.
AI. And the thing that the thing that we're talking about now is simulation. So essentially, AI will be able to take scenarios and simulate it 1,000 times over, and give you probabilistic answers on what's the best thing to do given the 1,000 scenarios that are coming your way. And I think that's a
Yeah.
really interesting way of thinking about it, is applying AI probabilistic engines to not just what's the next word I need to write, but what's the next action I need to take as a business.
Yeah. And then to take it to the next level, we're talking to folks sometimes who are doing like real-time testing, except it's way faster and more reliable than real-time testing because they're running tests and they're running instead of saying, "Hey, I'm going to take this out and I'm going to I'm going to talk to 20 people about it." They're asking AI, and AI is asking a million people about it at the same time. And so the reliability that they're seeing is pretty incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, it's real. It delivers really good results. One of the tips that I want to mention is, you have to be careful when interacting with AI. You can see this. You can see this yourself if you go just with a chatbot like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini. It has a bias to. It has a bias, and the biggest bias it has is it wants to please you, the user.
Mm,
So you have to get it in a place where it's critiquing you.
yeah.
That's where the real value comes in. If you're looking for confirmation bias from AI, it's really easy to get. Hey, I just
Hmm.
wrote this thing that I think is really cool. What do you think?
Yeah.
You don't even need to tell it you think it's really cool. If you're putting it in, it already assumes that you have some emotional connection to it, so it'll
Yeah.
confirm that what you're writing is good, even when it isn't. So
Yeah.
you have to remove that bias when working with AIs
Hmm.
relentlessly and often.
Yeah. And do you do that through changing prompts or changing perspectives?
You do that by asking it. it's tricky. And I haven't thought about this in a way that I can contextualize, but essentially you need to tell it to critique it. You can't let the AI know it's you that produced it. It's like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I came across this idea that I'm not sure lands on me. I don't think it's right, but I can't tell why.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Critique it for me.
Yeah.
Give me your honest opinion. Give me the pros and cons.
Yeah.
And I find I get more honest answers from AI than if I just say, tell me what you think about this thing that I wrote.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to move back to foundering a bit because
Okay.
it's fascinating to me. And when you've got rules, I love rules of three. I love the Marine Corps rule of three. I just rules of three are like old people can remember three things,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe not seven. So, but you've got a kind of a rule. The first three things that you focus on when you're going to start a business, and what are those?
Uh, did I write that somewhere?
Yeah, when
Um,
you're launching something new, what are the first three things that Anthony Franco would focus on?
oh my goodness. You caught me totally not remember writing that. Um, so I'm going to tell you what I focus on. You're gonna tell me whether or not they line up with what you say I've said.
Okay.
This is a really good test. So, so the way I focus on stuff is I focus on the identity first. What
Hmm.
is this? What is the face of this thing that I'm building?
Yeah.
That generally comes down to logo, this is not the right order, by the way. I'm telling you how I actually do it. I
Okay.
focus on a logo because the logo speaks to me about the identity. Like, how
Yeah.
is this going to present itself to the world? And then it's what customer pain am I going to be solving?
Uh-huh.
Which you should be focusing on that first,
Yeah.
candidly. What pain am I solving, and how am I going to sell it? And in reality, it should be how am I going to sell this thing? What's the pain, and then what's the identity? It should be in the opposite order, but I my mind doesn't work that way.
Yeah. But so you're kind of branding before. I mean, because you can't. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times these can be simultaneous, really, or must be
You,
because you refine that pain point, that, or you refine the ease of the pain, and you refine the product, and you or the
and you
service, et
iterate and
cetera,
you
et
loop,
cetera, et
right?
cetera. And then you
Right.
go, oh man, I put on the branding. I just the thing I forgot is like right in front of you. So
Yeah.
those trail with what you said before. So
Okay. Good. Good.
yeah. When you started the podcast,
Mhm.
you obviously wanted to help people and solve problems or teach a little bit more how to, but you're actually you're elevating the emotional position of the entrepreneur as well as providing some education. Uh, what drove you to do that?
Um, I said it. I said at the opening here. I love entrepreneurs. Like
Hmm.
when I'm hanging out at a party, like at a company, at a birthday party or something like that I don't know anybody. I'm socially awkward. Like I don't know how to talk about the weather. I don't know small talk. Um, so um, but if I
So
find
you
another
became a
entrepreneur,
podcaster.
yeah. No, but if somebody else is an entrepreneur there, like I now immediately have like I can talk to entrepreneurs for hours.
Yeah.
So the podcast really came from, um, yes, a kind of a mindset of serving other entrepreneurs with
Mhm.
experience, and not just my experience, but other entrepreneurs' experience too. So we have guests,
Yeah.
but it's also just because those are the people I like hanging out with, and
Nice.
I like learning from and talking to. So
Yeah.
this is just a reason for me 3 times a week to have conversations and learn with other entrepreneurs. I love my co-hosts. I love our guests, and it's more of a hobby than I don't have a business model around it. Ironically,
Yeah.
so it's
One
just
of the
something we
things,
enjoy.
yeah, one of the things I love about podcasting is I'm I've learned so much. You just
Yeah,
get, you take in so much information, and then to be able to apply that becomes a natural extension of the
exactly right.
podcast. Yeah. So if you've got entrepreneurs listening, you've obviously at least 6 times you've faced, hey man, I think it's maybe time to exit, sell, try something new. And it sounds like you face the same, I'm not going to call it a demon, but frailty of getting bored. Like most entrepreneurs I've ever met are like, okay, that was fun. Let's do something else. And so what, did you have a measuring stick that you use when it's time to sell a business?
Well, so first of all,
Exit. I'm sorry.
it's extremely personal.
Yeah.
That decision is extremely personal. The way I do it is likely not the way anybody else thinks about it, or many other people don't think about it. So,
Mm-hmm.
some entrepreneurs, they just want to build a lifestyle business, and when I say lifestyle, it's just a business that provides them a good living. So it's the
Mm-hmm.
business that feeds them the right amount of money to to live the life that they want to live. So it's not
Yeah.
their identity. Other entrepreneurs, they want to build a legacy, where they want to leave, they want the business to leave a mark on the
Yeah.
world. I'm somewhere in between. I want to build something that has impact, but I want to be in the build stage, not in the um, squeeze out an extra 3% of profit,
Yeah.
or improve operational efficiency by 6%.
Yeah.
So for me, the time where I'm like, okay, it's time for me to hand this over to somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
is when the business has gone through that incredible growth cycle and is ready for somebody that can come step in
Yeah.
and improve it with operational, like you hand it over to an operational leader,
Yeah.
not a growth minded leader. So it's not that operational leaders aren't growth minded, it's just it's a different mindset.
Yeah.
So that's when I decide, it's like, okay, it's now the business has outgrown the need for me to push it.
Yeah.
That's when I exit.
So you get to the top of the hockey stick, or close to the top of the hockey stick, and you say, hey, buddy, go scale this.
Yes.
Is that
Yeah.
accurate? Yeah.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I find that most people who are truly entrepreneurial, when that hockey stick begins to flatten out, they go, oh, this is not fun anymore.
I don't think that I don't think growing it is fun either. Like I don't. It's hard. It's mentally exhausting. It's just what I'm
Yeah.
good at.
Yeah.
So to the extent that doing what you're good at is fun, I would agree with that.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna have to land this airplane pretty quick. So I just when when we look at back at our lives, especially here on the Grampian, uh, it's Grandpa Chats with Champions, and by any measure, you're a champion in my estimation. But someone else, uh, because you've lived a big life, you can look back over your shoulder and you can say, who's that person who affected your life in such a significant way that you got to give them props right now and say that person was amazing and they made a difference in my life that was so measurable that I dot dot dot.
um, how would you, so I've had the opportunity to partner with a couple great business partners. I've been really lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And actually Rob Wilson's one of those. So if you're forcing me to choose an individual, I've started a couple businesses with Rob, and um, we both believe in the power of twos, and 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 have just been really fortunate. He's just pushed me in ways that I've hated him for, and then really appreciated him for. So I would say him, and he was never, he never positioned himself, and as a mentor, as the authority, as the person I looked up to. He's always been somebody that we've battled it out as peers,
Yeah.
and I can't, but he's like, we've had each other's back too. So just having somebody
Yeah.
like that in your life has just been, for me anyways, been um, incredibly fruitful.
All right. Well, Rob Wilson, thanks for coming alongside Anthony Franco. And Anthony, thank you for coming on the show. There's a Greek word called parakaleos, and it means to come alongside. And it looks and sounds to me like Rob Wilson is your paraclete.
Sure. I don't think he'd argue that. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Well, again, thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate you. We're going to be looking forward to more AI First Principles coming out. And until next time, you keep having those Grampian-sized dreams and execute on them. That will make you an entrepreneur. This is Jim, and I am out. When you get an opportunity, subscribe or follow wherever you get your podcast.